Feed me now. Ariel. We all know her. We all love her. The princess who reinvigorated the Walt Disney Company. She started the Disney Renaissance and prompted the studio to put out some of their best films in the company's history. But before the mermaid could find her voice, another character had to become plant food. Welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees. And I'm going to start today's episode by saying a name that you've probably heard before. Howard Ashman. Howard Ashman was the literal genius who played one of, if not the most important role in jump-starting the Disney Renaissance. But instead of just talking about why Ashman was a genius, I'm going to take this episode to talk about his work. Because I feel like you can really appreciate someone's genius when you look at the stuff that they created and put out into the world. And before he gave a mermaid her voice and helped a beast find his soul, he fed a beautiful, young, innocent girl to a man-eating plant. I am talking, of course, about Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. If you haven't seen Little Shop of Horrors, as soon as this video is over, you need to go and stream it because the movie is incredible. And as a bonus, Ellen Greene, who created the role of Audrey in the original off-Broadway production of Little Shop, reprises her role in the film opposite Rick Moranis, who is also perfectly cast. It's an incredible film. Please go watch it. Little Shop of Horrors is about a plant shop employee named Seymour who ultimately grows and cultivates a plant that becomes a giant man-eating monster. Where does Audrey come into play in all of this? She is Seymour's beautiful, sweet, lovely co-worker who he is head over heels in love with, but she's caught up in an abusive relationship with a sadistic dentist, as one is. I'm just going to say it plain and simply. Without Audrey, we wouldn't have Ariel. Without Ariel, we wouldn't have Belle, Jasmine, Tiana, Rapunzel, Meg. You get the idea. So, why do we owe Ariel to Audrey? Like I said, in a lot of ways, Audrey was really the mold or the model for the revisionist Disney princess. What do I mean by revisionist Disney princess? Okay, we're going to have to do a quick lesson in genre study. Get ready. Film theorist Christian Metz originally put forth a bunch of ideas about how a film genre comes into being and then the different stages of evolution that it sees throughout its life. The theory has evolved, and right now people generally accept that a genre goes through 4 stages. First, you have the primitive stage. That's when something is brand new and it has the seeds of something really special that people want to see more of. So in this case, think of Snow White. Then it evolves into the classical stage. So that's when the genre expectations are pretty firmly established. People go, they know what to expect with no surprises. So for this, think of Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. Next, you have the revisionist stage. The revisionist stage is like the really interesting one because that's when the movie and the genre starts to play with the expectations that people have, but then it kind of skews them or it inverts them or it calls certain conventions into question to make some kind of grander point or ultimately just to tell a really good story. So for revisionist princess movies, that's when you want to look at The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, so on and so forth. After the revisionist stage comes the parodic stage. So that's when everyone's really just tired of the genre and they're ready to make fun of it. Disney will probably never get to this stage with their princess movies. The closest they kind of got was with Enchanted, because Enchanted kind of made fun of the princess tropes by putting a princess into New York City. The closest we really have to a parodic stage princess is Princess Fiona in Shrek. But we're not talking about parody princesses. Let's rewind. Back to revisionist. So how do we know that a princess movie is in fact a revisionist princess movie instead of just a classical princess movie? Well, to answer that, first let's look at the conventions of a classical princess movie. You have a beautiful young girl who comes under some kind of threat, and then she's ultimately rescued from peril by a handsome prince. If you're looking at a revisionist princess movie, it's going to take that formula and ultimately pick 1 or 2 key things, flip them on their head, and in doing so, create a better, more interesting story. So for example, Beauty and the Beast. What if the princess rescues the prince? In Aladdin, what if the princess was overprotected? In Little Shop of Horrors, what if the princess wasn't actually a princess? Think about it. Audrey fits the bill of a classic princess in almost every way. She's a sweet, innocent girl. She's caught up in some kind of threat, and she's rescued by a handsome prince. Well, if not, he's got inner beauty. The big difference with Audrey is that she doesn't live in a castle. She lives in Skid Row, New York. Just think about it. Like, when you strip away the castles and the dwarves and the talking mice from the princess character, what are you left with? You are left with a human who is in a threatening situation, who ultimately needs to be rescued. And Audrey is. And then she's fed to a singing, man-eating plant. I mean, it's the revisionist stage. We can do whatever we want. But the most important thing is that we have to still love her, or else there's no point. Now, if you find interviews with Howard Ashman, especially when he's talking about developing The Little Mermaid, he focuses so much on the musical theater convention of the I Want song. The way he describes it is that within the first half hour or so of your musical, you have your leading lady sit on something, be it a tree stump or a bench or a garbage can, and just belt out to the world about the one dream she has in her heart. And from that moment on, he believed that the audience would fall in love with her and be on her side, and therefore be invested in the story. But Ashman really took the I Want song one step further with Audrey's song, Somewhere That's Green, to the point where I would even argue that it's not just an I Want song, it's an I Need song. Because two of the examples that Ashman talked about when he's talking about the I Want song are Eliza Doolittle's Wouldn't It Be Loverly, and the Scottish Girl's song that she sings in Brigadoon, Waiting for My Dearie. I haven't seen Brigadoon, I don't know. But based on a quick lyric search of Waiting for My Dearie and what I know of Wouldn't It Be Loverly from My Fair Lady, those are I Want songs. They're these characters that are sitting and expressing, oh, it would be nice if I had a boyfriend, or it would be nice if I had lots of chocolate for me to eat.
Lots of chocolate for me to eat.
Except with Audrey, it moves beyond that. It becomes an I Need song. She doesn't just want to get out of Skid Row, she needs to get out of Skid Row. She even sings about it. Everyone sings about how they gotta get out of Skid Row. But with Audrey and with Somewhere That's Green, Ashman created a beautiful, heartbreaking, enduring character that audiences could not help but root for. And all of this was plunked right down in the middle of a ridiculous story about a man-eating plant. With Audrey, Ashman figured out how you could have a beautifully complicated, grounded character in the middle of the craziest of stories, and it worked. In fact, it worked so well that it gave us Ariel. Obviously, Disney princesses before Ariel had I Want songs. Snow White had 2 of them. But see, when you have Ariel, she doesn't just wish for something that would be nice. Like, she doesn't Eliza Doolittle it.
Lots of chocolate for me to eat.
She is longing for an entirely new life. She is longing to be part of a world that she's only kind of seeing from a distance, exactly the same way Audrey does in Little Shop. Now, I'm not a music scholar by any means, except if you just give a quick listen to Part of Your World and Somewhere That's Green, the parallels are just undeniable, even purely from a structural standpoint. Both songs start out nice, slow, and simply, and it's just the character observing their current life. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? I know Seymour's the greatest, but I'm dating a semi-sadist. They express that they're done with it and they want to move on. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. I dream of a place where we can be together at last. Then they go into a laundry list about all the things that they want. Ariel wants to jump and dance and play in the sand. Audrey wants to host a Tupperware party and watch I Love Lucy on a 12-inch television screen. And then the key thing, the very last moment of the song. And if there's any doubt in your mind that Somewhere That's Green directly influenced Part of Your World, I am now going to read to you a line in the Little Shop of Horrors script at the very end of Somewhere That's Green, which was written by Howard Ashman. Ahem. On the last word of the song, she reaches out as if toward the place she's been singing about. And just like that, with Ariel just reaching out like Audrey, the audience falls in love with her, and the Disney princess is changed forever. Both characters have such incredible hearts, and a level of depth and humanity that was debatably missing from all the earlier princesses. And once we saw it with Ariel, audiences weren't going to accept any less. We didn't just want the classical princess who was wishing on a star, had sentient animal sidekicks, and wore a really cool costume. We wanted a lovable, unique, distinct character. And most importantly, we had to know what they were fighting for. Ideally with a really beautiful song. Alright folks, that concludes tonight's episode of Teacup for One. I would love to hear what your favorite I Want song is, whether it's from a Disney movie, whether it's from a musical, even if it's Somewhere That's Green. For myself, I've got to go with Somewhere That's Green, but only when it's sung by Ellen Green. Seriously, go YouTube her because she's incredible. And if you liked this video and you want to hear me talk even more at length about Disney and some of my favorite movies, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's super easy. All you need to do is click on my face. Ow. No, just kidding. Please, click. Thank you. Alright folks, thanks again for joining us today. What are you waiting for? Go watch another video. Seriously, do it, please.